Cooking. Hey, Facebook, you know we gotta get Instagram started. Special Halloween edition. I wanted to play some creepy music, but I didn't get around to it. Didn't get my set up today. Let's turn Instagram on. You can watch Real Life Cooking on Facebook and Instagram at Chefleen. Ooh, I'm showing Instagram my whole living room here. All right. Hey Instagram, welcome to Real Life Cooking. Just gonna get you set up here in the corner so you can see the whole kitchen. All right. Welcome to Real Life Cooking, our special Halloween episode. Well, my special Halloween episode that you are watching. The Real Life Cooking is all about a show where I teach you how to cook a meal from start to finish within an hour to show you that you too can do it in your home. If I'm doing it right here and talking to you and like fielding questions from you, you can definitely make this in your own home. And today, if you may have noticed, is a special edition of Real Life Cooking because we are going to be talking about things that you can make on Halloween, or, you know, I guess like in New York, Halloween is just like a whole 2 weeks because I've been seeing people's in costumes for like 2 weeks now. You know, throughout the whole season of Halloween, we are going to be making jack-o'-peppers, and we are going to be making a green goddess salad dressing, and we are going to be making a drink, an eyeball punch. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the box below. If you just want to say hi, comment, feel free to comment because we have Nikki here on the ones and twos. Technological guru filling in for TT. TT is coming back from Atlanta. Let's wish her a safe flight back. So yeah, any culinary questions along the way, if you're cooking along, if you have any questions, drop them in the box below. I'll be more than happy to answer them if I can. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be making ground beef, our jack-o'-peppers. They're going to be filled. I have some that I did earlier. I'm going to set them in front so you guys can see. Well, actually, let me bring them to you. They're so cute. So we're basically going to be carving little faces inside of our jack-o'-peppers. That one's smiling. This one has some little teeth and he's a little unhappy. And this one, my dad actually did. He has some teeth and a nose. He got real creative over there. And we're going to be filling them with a few different things. The first thing that we're going to want to start doing is grounding our beef. I don't know why I always say that. Browning our ground beef is what we're going to do. So the first thing I want to do is turn on my stove onto pretty high. I'm using a skillet. I like to use a pretty big skillet when I'm browning beef. And for this recipe in general, with like very thick edges, as opposed to like a skillet like this that has very thin edges. You can definitely do it in something like this, but the thicker edges, let's show you side by side, the thicker edges will ensure things are not falling out of the sides. Like, you know, we've all done it before. We're like, oh, I can definitely fit this in this small container, and then you're like stirring and spilling all over the stove. So if you have a bigger pot, go ahead and use it. If you only have this, do not make this recipe just because you have this. Totally will work in here. But what we want to do is get our pan nice and hot because we want to brown our beef. And now I know on the show I've talked a lot about searing meat. And so essentially we're going to be doing the same sort of thing with our ground beef. We want to get the pan really, really hot, put our beef in, and then just kind of let it sit there. We're going to break it up into slightly smaller chunks, and then we're going to just let it do its thing. So it can get that nice brown color, which will be more flavor, color is flavor, and much more appealing to the eye when you go to eat it. So you want to make sure your pan is hot. And I'm going to put some olive oil inside, right here. Just about a tablespoon or so of olive oil. Ground beef has a pretty good fat content. Actually, that's a good point. Speaking of ground beef fat content, your label is going to tell you a lot more about your ground beef. Not all ground beef is created equal. There are different portions of fat to lean meat in your mixture of ground beef. This one is 90% lean ground sirloin. So this is going to have a little less fat than like an 85% or 80%. A general good all-purpose is 85 to 15%, so 85% fat to 15% lean meat, because you don't want your ground beef to be dry, really. You want it nice and juicy. So my pan is hot. I'm going to just flip that over. Wasn't hot enough because I don't hear that sear right away. Question?
Just a comment. Larry Hernandez says, "Let's go, stoked."
Hey there, Larry, all the way from Palm Desert, somewhere over there. Question? Another question?
And really, Camacho said, "Hey, girl, hey."
Oh, hey, Miles. How are you? What are we doing for the wean? Where we go? Oh, yeah, you we're going to California.
Think you're missing your sous chef.
I think this meal might turn out better than the episode you were on. Just kidding. So I just broke up my ground beef into, I'm not breaking it down right now because again, I want to get that color, but just like bigger chunks. So maybe it's like about 10 chunks here. And what I'm going to do is just let it sit there, but I do want to season it with a good amount of salt. Like 2 5-finger pinches of salt. Question?
Sherry Greenwood Hamilton said, love your dress.
Oh, thank you. It's not a dress. Actually, it's an apron. And you, too, could be a lovely owner of this apron. Just go on Amazon. Amazon did not pay me for that endorsement. They should, though.
Deanna Pinkard said, what do you season your ground beef with? I think you're doing that now.
Yeah, so in our pan, we're making stuffed jaco peppers. And I'm just basically seasoning because I'm using pretty high heat to brown my beef right now. And I just want to let it do its thing with just a little bit of, a good amount of salt and a little bit of pepper. I'm just going to let it sit there and then we're going to get to some more seasonings later, so stay tuned for that. And while my ground beef is browning, I'm going to grab my pepper and start carving it. Question?
Tazboard said, awesome, the only thing missing is a Tazboard cutting board. Coming soon.
Oh yes, coming soon to the Real Life Cooking Tazboard Cutting. They make amazing custom cutting boards. Another?
And Monique Leron said, jet watching, pointing, cat, cat.
Oh, hey Jet. Jet's at home. Okay, so look at, I'm getting too many comments here, guys. I love it, but I just cut off the stem from my jaco pepper. But that's okay because I'll make this one with the hair. You'll see that later. You got to stay tuned for this. So we're gonna, so basically you just want to cut off the top. Basically similar to carving a pumpkin. Just take out this inside part. These seeds are not edible. And then you get to be creative. You get to design whatever kind of design face you want to have for your pepper. You know, it's actually a little hard to be too creative here because it's a very small area, and peppers, unlike pumpkins, are very delicate as opposed to, like, if you've ever carved a pumpkin, you know you're like, oh, like sitting there sawing at a pumpkin, it's really hard work. A pepper is a little more delicate, but what I will recommend is you want to use a really sharp knife and a really small knife. Like, I wouldn't want to use my chef knife here. Like, that would just kind of be impossible. So this right here is my fish boning knife. This is actually probably the sharpest knife in my house because I don't bone a ton of fish. I don't have a lot of fish that I'm taking out the bones of. Also, a paring knife would be really good here. But my paring knife is pretty dull because I've been putting in this dishwasher, which is a no-no for knives. Any sharp knives, any knives you have that you want to keep sharp, do not put in the dishwasher. One day I was just lazy and then I kept with that laziness, so this is not so sharp anymore. So I'm going to start carving my face. Do we have a question?
Yes. Larry Hernandez says, so on high heat or medium high to brown?
So for browning, we want to use a high heat.
And Cindy Early said, so cute.
Ah, thank you, Cindy. All right. I don't even know what I'm doing here. This takes a lot of thought to carve, like if you want to have like hollow things here. So I kind of carved out one big eye. Well, maybe I should do one big eye and one little eye. Oops. Let's see. You guys are making me nervous over there. All right. So I have 2 eyes here. Can you see? And then what do I want to do? I'll do something pretty simple. I'll do a big hole of a mouth. Also, a good note here is when you're picking out your bell peppers for this, oh, that's pretty cute. When you're picking out your bell peppers for this, you want to make sure, it looks like a ghost, like, ooh. You want to make sure they're peppers that can stand flat. Some peppers like tilt a little bit, and then that will kind of ruin the whole effect if that happens. All right, so I have my peppers here on a sheet pan, just with aluminum foil. You guys know I'm lazy, so I don't like to wash anything that I don't have to very thoroughly. So I'm going to use aluminum foil here, and I'm just going to salt and pepper my peppers and put them in the oven to start wilting down just a little bit while we work on our filling for them. Salt and pepper. And my oven is at like 400, and by the time my ground beef filling is done, which should be about like 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to pull these out, and they shouldn't be wilted enough, but they'll be kind of starting to cook. Question?
Are you leaving the tops on the pan as well?
Yes, I'm leaving the tops on because these are, I mean, you don't have to, but these are going to start to wilt and be a different texture. So if you left the tops out, they would just be really crunchy and kind of, might as well keep it all the same, right? Alternatively, you don't even have to cook them, but actually when you cook them, they're going to start to look even more creepy because they're going to get soggy. Just a little. You wouldn't want to overcook them. All right, into the oven, like 400. All right, now it's been about, I don't know, 7 minutes since I put my beef in. So now I'm gonna start to break it up into smaller pieces here. I had about 10 pieces, so now I'm gonna go like this. So as I'm breaking it up into the smaller pieces, there's more moisture releasing into the pan, which if you release it all at the same time, so if I were to do that before, there would be not enough room for the moisture to escape, and it would just be liquid on the bottom, so the browning wouldn't happen. So that's why we're doing it in this very specific way. If you've ever had gray brown beef, that's probably because you're releasing too much of the moisture beforehand. All right, so now I'm gonna work on some of the other ingredients. I'm gonna put in my, oh, did you guys see this? This makes me very happy. Creeping it real here on Real Life Cooking. So now I'm gonna cut my onion. I'm gonna add that in next to my brown ground beef. Say that 5 times fast. I just cut off the top. I left the root end intact. If you are an avid watcher of Real Life Cooking, you probably see this 1,000 times because onion pretty much belongs in every savory dish, unless you ask Kiki's husband. He would not agree with that at all. And I want to dice up this onion because I don't want to slice it. I want it to kind of blend into the ground beef. Alternatively, if you have someone that doesn't like onion, but like they're not like so noticeable that they don't like onion, like a child maybe, probably an adult that doesn't like onion, really doesn't like onion, and you can tell when it's in there. But a child that doesn't like onion, you could grate this onion and then like incorporate it into your ground beef, because then you'll still get that flavor, but there won't be the pieces, whereas someone that's like picky won't really notice it. They're like, oh, this is so good. And you're like, oh yeah, haha, there's onion in there, sucker. All right, so I sliced my onion horizontally, just like this. Then I took my knife and I'm slicing it vertically, just like this. And then I'm going to cut it and I get nice, even-ish. Like it doesn't have to be perfect here, but I get nice, sort of even-ish dices. Much more even than if I were to just take it and hack at my onion, like haphazardly. And I'll push that to the side. I'm using this side of my knife, not the sharp side, to push the onion to the side. You never want to scrape your knife along your cutting board because you're just dulling your knife. Not a good look. All right, what else do I need? I need my garlic. I am going to take off the tops. And generally when I take off the tops, garlic cooperates and the skin comes right off. See, nice and easy. And for my garlic, I'm not gonna slice it. I'm gonna use my favorite tool of the kitchen, the microplane, to just go ahead and microplane my garlic so it becomes a nice paste. I like the look of sliced garlic, but because these peppers are so small and individual, if we were to slice our garlic, there'd be like really big pieces of garlic in there, and you know, the flavor's good, but not everyone loves garlic in that way. So, well, this garlic is, maybe the onion is, it's starting to make me cry. Question?
What's the difference in a microplane and a grater?
So a microplane is just like a mini grater. Essentially what we're doing is grating the garlic, but it's very, very small. It becomes like a paste. See, like just like that. You wouldn't really want to grate garlic. I mean, you could, but it also would be hard to on the bigger graters because your fingers would get stuck. All right, I'm gonna break up my meat. Again, my ground beef back here. This is, now that it's kind of, there's pieces that are actually brown now. You know, if I had all the technology, I could show you. You would be zooming in right now. Now, see this nice color? That is the color we are looking for. Now that it's kind of gotten like that, now I'm going to be a little more aggressive in how I'm breaking it up. I'm using a nice wooden utensil with a flat edge. I don't really know if this particular utensil has a name, but I really like this tool. I love wooden tools in the kitchen because they don't melt. And they're easy cleaning. Also, another thing you never want to put in the dishwasher is your wooden tools. So, see, I'm like taking out all the day's anger. I had such a hard day. I went to the High Line. I went to work. Man, it was so hard. Gorgeous day. Really bad. Alright. Breaking it up a little bit more. Because we don't want, in our ground beef, in our bell peppers, jackal peppers, we don't want giant, big pieces of ground beef. We want it to be one cohesive kind of mixture. color. I'm gonna add in our garlic and more aggression getting taken out, and our onion. I always forget to take this out before I begin. Our bench scraper. Bench scraper is great for moving things from one place to the other. It's really not an expensive tool. This is probably my favorite kind. It's just all metal in one piece. To move things, I think this was like less than $12. And it prevents you from having to carry the cutting board. It prevents you from, like, you know, I know we've all done this, like picked up all our onion and then like dropped half of it on the floor. Really great tool to have in your house. Also, this one piece one is a lot better than ones that, like, the handle is a different material than the bottom piece, because as my best friends, hers just like broke in 2 pieces one day. So one piece is better when you're looking for one of these. Question?
Yes, Monique said, I had no clue. Why can't wooden spoons go in the dishwasher?
Why can't wooden spoons? You don't really want to put anything wooden in the dishwasher, just because, like, wood is absorbing all of that water, so it could, one, warp it. It could also, like, just stay wet for longer than you would want it to, which is, like, kind of a breeding ground for bacteria. Also, I said warp, breeding ground for bacteria. Also, it could just make it, well, warp is kind of the same as make it not look as nice. So that's just another thing. Alright, so I'm breaking it up. I'm moving my onions around. I want to give my onions some good time, a good enough time in there to start developing some flavor. So I'm going to let that go while I talk about my slices. Question?
Yes, Larry Hernandez said, how do you know it's cooked through but not overcooked and dry?
So, ground beef, like, this is actually probably cooked through now. And this recipe is great because we're going to be adding tomatoes to it, so even if it is a little bit dry, it won't be like super dry, like what do you say? Like dry? It won't be like dry. It won't be like mealy dry. Because the tomatoes, also, if you notice, I didn't drain out the fat. A lot of times people drain out the fat, but I actually really like that fat, especially for something, because we're going to put it back in the oven, so you want all that fat in there to kind of like hydrate everything and mix together. But remember, I was using 90% lean beef. If you happen to look at your package and it's like 40% lean meat, you might want to drain off some of that fat. So I don't even know if that exists. But yeah, I want to talk really quick about the spices I'm using. So when you're making stuffed peppers, they don't always have to look like jack-o'-lanterns. You could just cut off the tops and make regular stuffed peppers. And what's really cool about stuffed peppers is you can make them a lot of different ways. Today we're going to go kind of like a Latin Hispanic route. So I'm going to be using cumin, my favorite spice, smoked paprika, oregano, and garlic powder. And you might be saying, why are we adding more garlic powder when we already added fresh garlic? Layers of flavor. You can really never have too much flavor. Actually, that's probably the problem with most of you guys when you're cooking at home and you get very underwhelmed with your dish. You're probably just not adding enough flavor. Like, don't be scared to add in a lot of spices. I want to say it can't go wrong, but I know it can. But it will. But like things like garlic, like salt can be really wrong. But so add in at least a teaspoon of each of these to your ground beef mixture, and then taste it, and then see how you feel about it later. Question?
Yes, one comment. A. Estela Barragan said hola.
Hola.
And then
¿Cómo estás?
Forola B said, does it matter if you cook the onions a bit before while cooking the meat?
It doesn't matter, but if you cook the onions before, you're going to have steam in the pan. And so, because the onions are going to release their own moisture. You know what else I wanted to put? Where is it? I wanted to put chili powder in here. Obviously, we're making something Hispanic inspired. I don't know. I thought I took it out. We're going to just keep rolling and see what happens, because my spices are in a whole different spot of the house at the moment. But yeah, you wouldn't want to cook your onions before you put your ground beef in if you're trying to brown your beef, because the onions are going to release their own moisture, and once there's moisture in the pan, it's like impossible to make anything brown anymore. So definitely beef first, onions and garlic next. Alright, so I just added in all my spices, and now it's starting to smell super good. I'm going to lower down the heat now because I'm not trying to brown it anymore. And I'm going to taste it at this point, because like I just told you, spices are what's going to give it its flavor. So this is a really good point, like before it's all the way done, to check it and see if it's at a good spice level for you. Now, unlike me, you're just cooking for yourself, so it just has to taste good for yourself. I have to think about whoever I'm cooking for when I'm cooking for clients. Or if I'm cooking for friends, I'm like, it's good. Taste it, eat it, it's fine. Question?
Kurt the Sag said, hello.
Hello. So this tastes really good. I can taste the cumin. There's a really good level of garlic. There's, it's a little heavy on the smoked paprika, but not to worry, because right now we're gonna add in some tomato-based products. So I'm gonna add in, I've never actually tried this before, but the tomato paste at the store in the tube, I like tomato paste like this because it lasts forever. And you can use as much or as little as you want. Actually I should have tasted it before I put it in there. But they only had spicy tomato paste today, which actually kind of goes well with the Latin theme that we're going for. But I've never tasted it, so I don't really know how spicy it is. So that's right. It's like a 7 or 8. I'm very sensitive to spice, so it's probably like a normal person's 5. It's not too spicy. It's going to be a really good note for our Latin flavors in the back. I added about a tablespoon of that. And I'm also going to add in some diced tomatoes because we're doing the Latin flavors. I got some with hatch green chilies inside. You can use just regular tomatoes, or you can buy tomatoes and the hatch green chilies like separately and just add them in together as well. All right, I'm going to put this in. Question?
Kurt also said, love your cooking. I learned from you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to mix that in there and mix it all together. And I'm going to let these flavors meld together. We don't have to let this cook so long on the stove because, again, we're going to put it in the oven. But while it's cooking on the stove, I am going to make some rice. So I'm going to use minute rate rice, or this like microwave rice, because this is real life cooking. I actually do really like this product, not necessarily this brand specifically, but these kinds of products, because it saves a pan, it saves some time. Cooking rice takes at least 15 minutes. If you're making brown rice, it takes like almost 40. I also like frozen rice, like from Trader Joe's. It saves you a lot of time. If you have time on the weekends, make a giant batch of rice and freeze it in your own Ziploc bags. That's a lot cheaper, or a lot inexpensive. We're not cheap people. We're just, smart about our money. All right, so I'm going to tear a little hole in this and put it in the microwave for 2 inches. I only pour 1 for 90 seconds, and not ruin my Halloween decor while I'm at it. All right, 90 seconds. So if you're just joining us on Real Life Cooking, we are in the midst of making our jackal peppers. We have our ground beef going with some tomatoes. We added some Latin spices. We have some rice going in the microwave because it's real life and we don't have time for that, cooking rice. And we have a question.
Well, food that makes you go yummy said, I'm glad I got off work for this so I could watch the video.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so stuffed peppers, normally you can make a vegetable, but I thought why not make it like a one-stop shop instead of having to make a separate vegetable on the side. What I'm going to do is just saute some kale. This is dinosaur kale. I really like this kind of kale. And then, actually I'm not even going to saute it because again, who wants to wash all these pans? I'm just going to rinse it off, thinly slice it and add it to our mixture. Like, I'll show you how thin. Let me rinse it off so I can show you how I'm going to cut it in, put it in there. Question?
Is there a particular technique for rinsing or some product we should use, or is just a water rinse okay?
A water rinse is okay. So when you get vegetables, use your judgment. All vegetables should be washed. Although I must admit, like lettuce that comes in like a box, normally I don't wash that because it looks clean, it tastes clean, and it's in a box, so it's been processed in some sort of way. Especially like butter lettuce. Kale is generally sometimes really, really sandy. I actually passed up on the regular kale today because it looked like just like too much work for me to deal with. This, they call it dinosaur kale, Lacento kale, looked a lot cleaner. So I just gave this a quick rinse. Normally if you have leafy greens like this, you'd want to dip it in a big bowl of water and let all that sand drip to the bottom. Sometimes you have to do that 2 or 3 times. Today, actually, at a client's house, I'm gonna just thinly slice this into ribbons. I'm not gonna remove the ribs, which sometimes they tell you to do, because I'm not going to use all of the kale in this. I'm just going to use probably right around to where the ribs get really thick and not so great. But yeah, today at a client's house, I was washing fresh, what was I washing? Fresh green leaf lettuce. And I washed it once and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. But then I tasted it and I put it in my mouth and I was like, oh, this sandy flavor is not delicious. So then I really had to wash it 3 different times, dunk it in the water. So I recommend tasting your lettuce if sometimes your eye can't see it as well. So I stopped around for the dinosaur kale, around like 3/4 of the way. The stem gets kind of thick right here. And this is great like if you want to blend it in a smoothie, because there's still nutrients in here, but it's just a little tough if you're eating it by itself. So I'm just going to save that for later. And I'm going to throw in my kale to our ground beef mixture. Now I just added a bunch of unseasoned kale to well-seasoned beef. So what do I need to do right now? Season everything all over again, because the kale is basically diluting how amazing tasting the beef was. So I want to make sure it tastes great. Everything tastes great through and through. Oh my gosh, I'm like making a giant mess. All right, so I'm going to stir this around, and the kale will just basically wilt. Actually, at this point, I don't even need to be cooking this anymore. Let's bring it over here. The kale will kind of like wilt into the ground beef. And again, like I said, we're going to put this in the oven, so we don't have to. Our rice is ready. Man, that was so much work cooking this rice. So we don't need to like cook it so much. I'm going to just add in all that rice. What I really like is, what is it called? Like the quinoa and wild rice mixtures. Those are really good as well. All right, so I'm just mixing this all together. And then you would want to taste this, see if it tastes good to you. Don't spill. See, that's what I said. Don't use these little thin pans, because you'll be trying to stir it all around and you make a bigger mess than me. So I just want to stir it around, make sure everything's combined. And again, I want to taste it. I'm going to look at my cabinet really quick for this chili powder. Nope, nope, nope. Nope. So sad. Let's taste. It's super hot. Pretty good. This would be good in a burrito too. This is actually, you can make this and freeze it in Ziploc bags and use it later. Alright, so at this point, we're basically almost done with this dish. Pretty easy. I want to take out my bell peppers that have been in the oven for like 30 minutes or so. As you can see, they've kind of like started to wilt a little. They look a little sadder than they did before. There's some moisture inside, some water inside. Perfectly fine. Oh, you know what I want? I want a big spoon. And I'm just going to spoon this mixture into my peppers now. Now, like I said, stuffed peppers earlier are great because you don't have to follow my recipe. Remember, recipes are just guidelines. You can go a lot of different kinds of ways with stuffed peppers. You can go, like I did today, Latin, and put like chili powder, cumin, rice. You could even put beans in here. You could go like an Asian route and use ground pork and use soy and lemongrass and flavors like that. You could do a like Italian version and use oregano and like marinara sauce. It's really not, it's really open to your imagination here. All right, so I'm gonna fill these up and I'm just gonna put them in the oven just while I make my salad dressing really quick. And I probably have enough for like 2 more peppers here. Put that down. I'm gonna throw these back in the oven. Hot, super hot. I'm gonna put my lids on them. Question?
Yes, Sienna Pinkard said, what was in the mixture?
So in my mixture today, I put ground beef, rice, cumin, garlic powder. I would have loved to put chili powder, but I didn't have any. Cumin, garlic, I put smoked paprika, and that's it, salt, pepper. I put kale in, so we have our vegetable in there. Oh, and I put onion and garlic, fresh onion and garlic. So I'm gonna throw these back in the oven. And the next thing that we are making, Nikki, can you tell me when it is like 5 minutes?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. The next thing that we're gonna make is a green goddess salad dressing. One of my actually kind of favorite things I feel like I just invented, because actually I didn't invent green goddess dressing, but I made my own spin on it, so I feel like I invented it. What we're gonna need for this portion is, well, some sort of mixer. I'm gonna use my NutriBullet. I'm going to use almonds, limes, avocado, water, and a bit of spinach. So I'm going to add in just like a handful or so of spinach. The spinach isn't actually going to add so much flavor. It's going to really just make the color super bright. And you're getting extra nutrients because there's like hidden spinach in there. I'm going to add in some almonds to make it creamy. Well, the avocado is also going to help do that, but these also help. So about 1/4 of a cup of almonds or so. And then I'm only going to use, where'd my knife go? Oh, over here. I'm only going to use about 1/2 of an avocado. Whenever you blend avocado, it gets super thick. Oh, quick note on cutting avocados. You want to slice it around just like this. If your avocado is ripe, you want to twist it off. It should twist off very easily. If it doesn't twist easily, that means it probably wasn't ripe. So sad. That's like the saddest thing when you open an avocado and it wasn't ripe. And you're like, wow, I just wasted $2. That's also really sad when you open an avocado and it's like brown on the inside. The way to try to avoid that is not to get any avocados that are super mushy. Normally, I like to test my avocados by touching the top if it kind of gives at the little top. And if the stem comes off easily, it's ripe or pretty ripe. And generally, I'd rather buy my avocados on the slightly underripe side than the overripe side, because the overripe avocados have like a weird taste to me. I'm a little bougie about my avocados coming from California. Question?
Yes, I know you didn't use the pit side, but any tips on getting the pit out?
Oh yeah, I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. So I'm gonna add just a garlic clove, and then I'm gonna squeeze my lime. I should probably only use 1 lime for this amount. If you notice, I cut my lime off the edge, so I cut it into thirds. There's like a middle section and 2 small pieces. And you get the most amount of juice out of your lime or lemon. This works for lemons as well. Because if you've ever cut a lime in half and then try to squeeze it, it's probably really hard. Yeah. Something about the way that the citrus is on the inside, it makes it a lot easier to squeeze it that way. Also, I like to turn it on the outside and squeeze it just like that. So, and then for the middle portion, I cut that into another 3 pieces, just like that, and then you get a good amount. It's like worth it to squeeze your lime like this. Like, that's another disappointing thing when you're trying to squeeze citrus and there's like nothing coming out. And limes are not cheap. They're pretty expensive as well. All right. To our green goddess dressing, I actually really love the addition of dill in here, but my mother is here today, so I was a kind person. Just like I was a kind person to Christopher and I didn't put beans and stuffed peppers, I'm not putting dill in here, but you can add any kind of other herbs you would want in here as well, like parsley, cilantro. Cilantro would actually be really nice today, specifically, to pair with our peppers because we have the Latin flavors going on. I'm going to add a little bit of water so we can make a dressing. Oh, I think I should take out my peppers too. They're probably done.
How much is a little bit?
Like 1/4 of a cup or so. Maybe like a 1/2 cup. Trust your gut, Nikki. Trust your gut when you're cooking. And then, oh, also I want to put in, obviously, some salt. My hands are a little wet, so I'm just going to kind of pour it in. And some pepper. This is also a really good, you'll see it's a pretty thick dressing. It works really well for like a dip, like if you want to make a crudité or something like that, or for a party and you're like tired of hummus and salsa, because that's all that's served at parties. Let me just wipe my area. A clean kitchen makes way more delicious food. And then we're just going to blend this. And then taste it. See how bright and green this is? This is really pretty too for a Halloween kind of inspired. Chris just stuck his head out like, are we eating that? For a Halloween inspired sort of situation, kind of ghoulish. And you can see it's really thick. So if you want it to be thinner, add more water. Actually might add a little bit more water, but you'd want to blend it in so it can get all together. You also, before you put this on anyone's plate, want to taste it. Pretty good. I'm gonna add a little more water and blend it again. It's very fresh. I really do like the addition of herbs into this because it really brings out like even brighter flavors. Lime really brings out the flavors of herbs. Just put on my NutriBullet, just 5 more seconds. All right, cool. I'll just leave that to the side. I think we can take out our peppers because they're starting to really wilt. Now we just set these aside over here. This meal, the stuffed peppers is kind of a one-pot meal if you have a big enough pan because you can just mix everything together. Pretty easy over here. All right, so if you're just joining Real Life Cooking or if you've been watching this whole time, today we're making jackal peppers. They're actually already done and we started at 8 o'clock and it's 8:34. So those of you at home who say you have no time to cook, this is a super easy recipe to make. And we just made a green goddess salad dressing to go along on a salad. I'm actually gonna prepare my salad. So, speaking of washing lettuce, this is a kind of, when you get lettuce like this at the grocery store, I'm like trying to wonder, oh, it's in a bag because I bought it from Instacart. I was like, I never put my vegetables in bags. I feel like it's such a waste. Whenever you buy like romaine or lettuce like this, it's like loose sitting out on the shelves, that is definitely the kind of lettuce you want to dip in water because sand likes to hide right here. Right here. Romaine is an amazing, it's probably my favorite lettuce of them all, reigns supreme. Oh, maybe I should be romaine queen for Halloween. Anyone have any ideas what I should be for Halloween? Can make a whole little outfit out of like romaine. Oh, Chris, yeah, we should be salad. You could be, anyway. So I'm gonna rinse this off. Romaine is one of my favorite lettuces because it doesn't really taste like much, but it's really crispy. So if you really care about like textures, romaine is a great choice. I'm gonna just do what I'm gonna lie and not dip it in water, but I'm gonna rub my ribs. I'm gonna rub my ribs. Just kidding. I'm gonna rub these. I rub these ribs really well so the sand would come out of there. And then I'm just going to cut my romaine. I like to actually cut off the tops, and most of the time I don't use these because, like I said, I really like the crunchy nature of romaine, and these, a lot of times they have like weird little spots, and it's just a weird thing I do. You don't have to do it, but, and then I'm gonna cut it into ribbons. You may have heard not to cut your lettuce, but if you're gonna eat it right away, totally fine to cut your lettuce and a lot more efficient than like ripping it like this, like I used to have to do as a kid. Staring at my mom over here. Wish I had a knife. Alright, so let's bring a bowl. Go ahead and put our romaine into our bowl here. And then I'm making a really simple salad. This is probably one of my favorite things in salads. I'm going to use an English cucumber. English cucumbers are the ones wrapped in plastic. They're wrapped in plastic because you can actually eat the skin, and their skin is kind of porous, so that's why they're wrapped in plastic, to protect the cucumber. Just be careful whenever you are taking the plastic wrap off of the cucumber. I've noticed a lot of times the plastic sometimes gets stuck in my knife, so I always double check my knife to make sure there's no plastic inside. And then I'm just gonna cut my cucumber. You can cut it in any, actually also I'm gonna turn off my oven because I'm super hot in here. You can cut your cucumber any kind of way you want. If you want to cut it into like cubes, you would want to cut planks and then cut them into little sticks, and then you would want to cut them like this. If you want to be lazy, so we have cubes there. If you wanted to cut them into even thinner little pieces, you could cut planks again and then cut them into like sort of strips. Question?
We're gonna be a salad.
We're eating salad?
We're gonna be a salad.
Oh yeah, we should be a salad for Halloween. Does anyone at home have any ideas for my Halloween costume? I'm really into Halloween. I love it. I love dressing up. It's so fun. Who doesn't want an excuse to dress up as an adult? All right, or you could cut it into just pieces like this. However you want to do it, but no English cucumbers. You can eat the skin. And actually, English cucumbers, they're like, I love English cucumbers. Much better. They're a lot more expensive than your American cucumbers. That they're like, you can get 3 for 99 cents. This might run you $2.49. At least in New York it does. But it's worth it. I promise it's worth it. All right. Last thing I want to add in are some tomatoes. I'm going to just rinse them off over here. Ow! to cut my tomatoes in half because I don't like when the tomatoes burst in your mouth. Do we have a question, a problem over here?
No, you're fine.
Oh, thanks. All right, so I'm gonna cut them in half. Sometimes I like to cut them into quarters, but halves is good for today. Throw them in there too. And then I wanna dry my hands. Where's my dish towel? Dry my hands. And I want to sprinkle. This is one thing people don't do. They don't season their salad. Seasoning your salad will change your life, I promise. It really brings out the flavor of the tomatoes, and season with salt and pepper. Trust me, like if you've never seasoned your salad and you're gonna season your salad tonight, it's gonna be so good. All right, so real life cooking. We've made our stuffed peppers. They're sitting there waiting for us to eat. We just put together a really simple salad where we also made our green goddess dressing. It's sitting here waiting for us. This dressing doesn't last so long because the avocado may start to brown in your fridge, but probably about 3 days you could keep this in your fridge. And as promised, I told you I would show you how to take the pit out of an avocado. So if you are what's the opposite of avid? Novice. Yes, if you are a novice, you might want to use a dish towel because ever since avocado toast became super popular, there's been a rise in avocado-related injuries at home. Like there's been, it's actual thing, like in hospitals. Because people, what they do is they'll like be trying to take out the seed and they'll accidentally cut their wrist. Now that I give you that visual, you'll be extra careful when you do this. So you can put a dish towel in your hand just to have that added protection. Dish towel, because I've done this so many times, kind of messes me up a little bit, so I'm gonna do it without a dish towel. And then the key to this is confidence. Be confident when you are going in for the kill. Super Halloweeny here. Going in for the kill, you just want to simply tap your seed. See, my knife is stuck. Also, you want a sharp knife. And then twist, and it'll come out. Oh, just like that. Now, again, this really works the best when your avocado is at its perfect ripeness. This is a really, really good avocado, by the way. And then if it's not ripe at all, your seed is gonna like be stuck in there, in which case you might have to work. I've actually even sometimes had to just take a spoon and kind of dig it out, but that's more rare. Like it's really when your avocado is super not ripe. Right, yeah. Avocados are a fruit, by the way. And then to take your seed out, you don't wanna grab it with your hand. I normally just kind of like take my knife and tilt it on the counter or the cutting board, and then it normally comes out pretty easily. Question?
Chris Coy said, hey.
Hey, Chris Coy. All right, so let's move on to the final thing of the evening. We are going to be making eyeball punch. So let's move this to the side until we are ready to eat. And for our eyeball punch, we're going to need lychees or lychees, depending on where you're from. That's how you're going to say it. Cranberry juice, ginger ale, pineapple juice, and grenadine. And I'm gonna move this knife because I no longer need it. Oh, we also need blueberries, and I'll show you why. So, for our punch, and you need like a pitcher. This is a drink you definitely want to create in like a pitcher or a punch bowl or something of that nature. So, for our eyeballs, the eyeball portion of it, we're gonna take our lychees, or lychees, depending on where you're from, and just put a blueberry right in the middle. You kind of want to lay your blueberry flat. So then, wait, actually let me make two so I can look really cool. And then you'll have your eyeballs. Eyeballs! Oh. And then you can just place them in your punch bowl or whatever you're using. Lychees, for those who have never heard of them, they are a member of the soapberry family. And they're from Southeast China. They've been around since like the 11th century. Sometimes in the fruit stands in New York, you can find them. They're like, or they might have the rambusans. Forgive me, I know I'm saying that wrong. But it has like a little furry skin around it, and you peel off that skin, and then this is the fruit that is inside. You can also find them in this canned version, like at specialty stores. They definitely didn't have them at Best Market if you live in Harlem. And they definitely didn't have them on the Fairway at 125th. But they're pretty easy to find in the city. Any Asian market would probably have them. They're really good in, they're really high in vitamin C and fiber, and they kind of taste like a mixture of a grape citrus with a little like slightly floral taste. So if you like rose water, you'll probably like lychees, depending on where you're from. So I keep saying that because British people pronounce it as lychee, and Americans we say lychee. Maybe I should ask someone from China because that's where they originated from. So I'm just gonna say lychee or lychee the whole time. Every time I say lychee or lychee. So you can fill your whole little jar with as many lychees as you want. The more the merrier. You could also make these ahead of time, like say you're having a party with like a bar, and then the bartender could just pop one in to each drink. I think, yeah, like I just said, the more the merrier, the creepier. It is Halloween after all. We want to get spooky over here. And if you kind of layer them like that, then they go there. All right. So we have our lychees. Move this. This syrup inside the can is sticky. So if you're doing it at home, like be a little more aware of like where you're dripping this liquid. All right. So to mix the punch, it's very, 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 very scientific. We're gonna add in some cranberry juice. We're gonna add in, actually a little bit more. Cranberry juice is the base. And then we're gonna add in 2 cans, well, for this little jar of pineapple juice. It's looking murky in there. Actually, maybe no, not 2 cans. I'm gonna use the least amount of grenadine, but just a little bit of ginger ale to give it a punch. Haha, punch to your punch. And then just a dash of grenadine. The grenadine is just gonna make it deeper in color. If you had watched the Bahamas episode I did a few weeks ago with Chris Weish, we used the grenadine to make a Bahama Mamas. And as discussed there, grenadine is just literally pure syrup. So you want to be careful of how much you put in there. All right, and then the piece de resistance, if you really want to be festive, bust out, where did I put right here. Go ahead and get some dry ice and add it to your drink to make it bubbling and really, really cool. Now, a couple warnings about using dry ice. You never ever want to touch it with your bare hands. You never ever want to drink it with your mouth. Dry ice is at a negative 79 degrees. You never want to keep it in anything like a glass jar with a lid because it could explode. And you never want to put it, I have a lot of numbers here, but it looks so cool. You never want to put it in an individual drink unless you get food grade ice chips, which will dissolve very quickly. So something like this, look at the eyes are like bubbling, it's super cool. Something like this, if you're making a punch like this, the dry ice will evaporate in about 10 to 15 minutes. And if you have it in the big punch bowl, you want to have someone serving this so you make sure none of that dry ice gets inside. Question?
2 comments. Coach Alexandra Hermes said, lovely clothes. And Larry Hamilton said, Kat, you gotta eat something. I see your bones.
Very, very funny. It's almost Larry's birthday. Happy early birthday, Larry. I'm gonna grab a plate over here. So dry ice. Another thing, dry ice is basically frozen CO2, carbon dioxide. So you never want to work at it in a very close space. And it's gonna give, if we didn't have carbonation in here already, once the dry ice evaporates, you might notice a slight carbonation like tinge, but it's totally safe to eat, just not while it's in there freezing. Another good idea is if you want to serve it like in a punch bowl, it's to kind of layer your bowls together. So put the actual punch you would be drinking from this middle bowl in here, and then put your dry ice around, and then it'll be foaming and no one will actually be touching the dry ice. Question?
Larry said, thank you, party time.
No problem. All right, let's finish up our meal here. And while we finish up our meal, so I'm gonna put a little bit of dressing onto our salad, and I like to toss my salad all together in one bowl before I serve it out. And a note you want to put in the dressing at the very last minute because dressing is going to make your salad wilt. Do you have a question?
Yes. And Power88 said, Chefleen, how did you get your name? What was your fave dish to cook when you worked at Her Lake?
Oh, I got my name from this fine young gentleman named Rod Gatson, who I'm assuming that is. Every morning he would come in the kitchen. I used to work at Her Lake, and he would be like, oh, chef. One day he said Chefleen, and then the name just kind of stuck. And it's kind of cool because I'm a chef. My name's Kathleen, kind of combined. Pretty genius there. All right, so I'm gonna put up this salad on the side of the plate. Move this over here. And then I'm gonna choose my favorite pumpkin. I guess I'll use the one my dad made. I like the cheese he made here. Put my favorite little pumpkin there, right on the plate as well. This green goddess dressing would actually serve very, very well as a sauce for this pepper as well if you find it a little dry. Question?
Empire88 said, you're so dope.
Oh, why thank you. I want to tell you just a little bit before we go, a little bit history of the jack-o'-lanterns since we made jack-o'-peppers. So it's actually, originally they started carving turnips because there's this man named Jack who tricked the devil twice and then he died. He wasn't accepted to heaven or hell. And so he just wandered around. He was given a piece of coal and he just wandered around the darkness of the night. But he put it inside of the turnip and lit it up. So Halloween is actually, or All Hallows Eve is actually the day where a lot of people believe you're closer to the spirit world. Like the reality is closer to the spirit world. So that's why like Day of the Dead exists. Like if you've seen the movie Coco. And so people started, because they didn't want to be like Jack was a trickster and horrible. So they started carving pumpkin or turnips in Ireland to ward away evil spirits. I also read that some people lit them up for good spirits. I'm not a historian, so I don't know which is actually the truth. But that's why we carve pumpkins today, to either ward away evil spirits or to bring the good spirits to us, or just to have fun, because Halloween is just fun in general. Question?
Empower88 said, great to see you living in your greatness. Go, Chefleen.
Oh, why thank you.
And Sequoia said, I don't believe that story.
Hate her.
Between heaven and hell.
Hate her. Oh. Well, you don't have to believe it. Halloween is simply fun. It's fun to create festive, fun dishes for every single holiday. I always like any excuse to celebrate. I didn't get any costume suggestions, people. Like, come on, please, let me know. Send them to my DMs. Let me know what Chris and I should be. But yes, thank you for joining me on Real Life Cooking. We have one more question before we go.
Aline DeSalva said, great looking plate.
Oh, why thank you, Aline. So yes, thank you for joining me on Real Life Cooking, Halloween edition. I wish we could close out with some Halloween music, like spookiness. We made our jack-o'-peppers, super easy. It took us like 20 minutes to make them. If I did that now, you could do it at home. We made a green goddess dressing, my own special recipe because I invented green goddess. And we made our bubbling eyeball punch. This is like really cool, guys. Like you should definitely try it. If you are in New York and you need a place to buy dry ice, United Dry Ice on 45th in between 10th and 11th is a great place to get 5 pounds of dry ice for $10. So definitely check that place out. Any more questions?
Comments?
Oh, comments.
How can we get your avocado toast recipe? And Empower88 said, I'm going to call you. Bless up.
All right, awesome. I will maybe make an avocado toast recipe soon. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me on Real Life Cooking, special Halloween edition. If you like my apron, thanks. And Halloween music, creepiness. Woo! Let's bring you guys to the closeness, the close-up. All right, bye guys. Bye.
I was trying to play Thriller. I didn't know.